Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and it's been 10 years since I started this channel. In this video we'll just talk a little about the channel up to this point and going forward, so it's not going to be anything too exciting if I'm honest. If you want an actual good video, go check out my Who's the Strongest Old Man in Souls one. That's the 10 years special. This is the 10-year normal, where I'll just talk a bit about those 10 years. Pontification ahoy! Some of the first content I ever made on my channel, if we can even call it content, was Metal Gear Rising and Dragon's Dogma playthroughs, specifically Bitter Black Isle playthrough, neither of which I kept up because of copyright stuff, and man, if that wasn't the biggest problem with YouTube. Still is, in a lot of ways. There are many profound problems with the way YouTube handles copyright in general, but it's better than it was, a lot better than it was. You weren't missing much though. I didn't even have commentary on them, there was nothing noteworthy about them. I think honestly I just did them as like a test to sort of find out good ways, just a test of the concept of uploading episodic playthroughs. See, back then I would plan it out a lot, like for my Dark Souls ones, like oh man, this is my first playthrough with commentary, I need to sort of make a big list of things to talk about, subjects to go over. Now I can just start recording and then just waffle on for 2 hours. But as it turns out, Let's Plays or playthroughs, whatever, didn't become a big focus of my channel, at any rate. I mean, I've made a few of them, and most of them are fun to make, but if we're talking numbers, I've got more than 1,300 videos uploaded, more than 37 million views. Of course, I'm not using any of those numbers to boast, because, as Qui-Gon said, there's always a bigger fish. All the same, it's nice to look back like this. See, my channel has been about as successful as I ever wanted or hoped, which is, well, I've never taken the best approach to growing and making a business out of a channel, putting out content that's going to give me loads of views or money. I have, for the most part, just done whatever I wanted, and sometimes there's content I put out that I know will either get not many views, or people may even actively dislike it because it's an opinion of mine that goes against the popular one, such as the I don't like Midir video. But sometimes you just need to put out your opinion, even if you know people will disagree with it, even if that's growing increasingly more dangerous in these days and times, because if you say something that people consider wrong, they might try and shoot you through the lung for it. And I like having my lungs intact. But it's not all been just stuff I like. There are times where I take sponsorships, of course, which ideally I would never have to take them, but if I do have to take them, I'd rather take them for something that's at least kind of interesting or useful or related to the content in some way. And that's just because I do need money to eat. Not to eat the money, I give the money to people and then they give me food and then I eat the food, then I don't die, and generally speaking it's good for everyone involved. Back to numbers though, my top 5 videos in terms of views are my Final Fantasy XIV starter guide, Ornstein and Smough lore, Priscilla lore, a boss guide for the Bed of Chaos, and finally, a boss guide for a God of War fight. My top grossing videos are all starter guides, comically, Final Fantasy XIV, Red Dead Online, Dark Souls, and Dragon's Dogma, which is somewhat gratifying as I put a lot of effort into making those guides. But you know what? Guides can be pretty hard to make. As one example, in many of my boss guide videos, people ask me, down in the comments, like, oh, why do you keep getting hit? Or they say, how is this a boss guide when you keep getting slapped? My response to that has always been, well, if you're looking up a video on how to beat a boss, is it better to see someone who God mode no hits the boss, or someone who actually gets hit and recovers and wins? My assumption was always the latter. Besides, if you want the former, there's always just speedruns. A large part of the reason people die to Souls bosses, for example, is because they get hit, and then they recover at the wrong time, which leads to them getting hit again and, like, dying. And I'm not a God mode gamer, so if I can beat these things, anyone can. As for starting out, and, like, goals and everything, I never really had goals other than just making content that would be fun for me to make and hopefully people would enjoy. In terms of, like, subscribers. I went, well, let's say 1,000 subscribers, 10,000 being like the end goal. Hitting 100,000 was obviously a very happy moment because, you know, they got the whole silver award things. Silver Mont got a silver award, and that just seemed appropriate. But yeah, I've never really had desire to go beyond that. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to get like 200 million views on each video in the sense that I'd get way more money to pay the bills. But at the same time, if you got that many views, I wouldn't be able to keep up with comments. I read every comment and I reply to almost all of them as well. But that just wouldn't be feasible when you look at popular YouTubers, you know? I think at that point, something changes. You're no longer able to connect with your audience to the same extent. And those connections have always been important to me. I generally make videos either to help people or to converse a topic that I'm passionate about. Perhaps, unfortunately for me, the former is far more popular than the latter. But I can't complain, as that's what law videos kind of were for a long time, and I've enjoyed a lot of nice, and a few dumb, conversations thanks to those. Looking at it from the perspective of a business, my channel's never made me loads of money, and I'm fine with that. Although there was the time once on Twitch when I was just, I think, playing Dark Souls 3 and some guy just gave me like $1,000, which was nice. That definitely helped that year a lot. But no, from like purely YouTube and content stuff, I've never been someone who wanted or needed a lot, just enough to pay my bills, buy food, and, you know, buy the odd thing here and there. Unfortunately, since buying my first home, real-life events have combined. I moved into my place right before the pandemic started. Whilst that didn't impact me nearly as much as others, of course, it did still have some negative effects. And then, last year, energy prices have been reaching disgusting levels until it finally reached the point where my bills are higher than my income. That and some other real-life things have made it, well, somewhat of a struggle. No kidding there. As for the actual videos, I'm generally happy with how most of them turn out. Sometimes I'll spend 20 hours working on a video and it doesn't get very many views, then I'll like put another video up, maybe even like a joke or just something I happen to think was funny and put like no effort into, and sometimes that blows up, and it goes to show that hard work and the quality of your content don't always matter that much on YouTube. But it's still good to try, I think, to put out the best stuff you can. Still, I never expected to be doing this for the rest of my life, and 10 years is a good amount of time. I've achieved just about every goal I set out to with YouTube. So going forward, I may scale back the amount of videos I put out, either temporarily or permanently. I've done one video a week for a very, very long time. That's one video a week minimum, sometimes more. And I think one video a week has been a nice enough schedule. Doesn't spam people with stuff, but doesn't leave them waiting too long either. But now and then, there are times where I look at my schedule and I go, oh, I need to think about what to make. And I don't think that's good. Struggling to come up with content means there's no real inspiration, right? It's not something you can really force, and a lot of times schedules and creative industries are not a good match. But struggling to come up with content means the content itself might suffer, you know? And as much as I love Dark Souls, well, I think I've covered just about every aspect of it I reasonably can. Well, I think that a lot of the time, and then one day I'll be sitting there, and then suddenly I'll go like, huh, I have an idea now. But that's the thing, it strikes you, you can't strike it. Which is a really weird way to think of it, but if you're trying to come up with an idea, it's not going to be as good as letting the idea come to you naturally. Going forward, I think I might experiment more with one video every 2 weeks instead of one video every Saturday. I'm pretty sure this will benefit just about everyone, apart from probably my views and money, and also the one person out there who watches every single video I put out, including this video, which will probably get 5 views. But yes, I think this will be a good move going forward, as it means I don't need to struggle to put out content just to keep a schedule that was really just arbitrary. I didn't have to keep that schedule, I just did because I wanted to be consistent. It also means I'll be able to start looking for another job, because it isn't just myself I'm looking after now, but family, and I need additional income to cover that. Which of course means I need to plug stuff like Patreon and my channel memberships. I do have a Patreon and I have channel memberships. There's also PayPal and whatnot. But honestly, as great as money is, I hate asking for it in that sense. And the best support is just watching, leaving comments so I can talk with you, and if you enjoyed the video, sharing it with your friends and communities. Post it on your MySpace page where you have Linkin Park music playing. Does MySpace even still exist? I think Facebook does, but should it? Should it really? Should any social media really? As for the type of content, well, I'm not really planning any changes there, if I'm honest. I'll make whatever I'm inspired to make, whatever takes my fancy. I love making guides, character lore videos, stupid videos that are meant to be funny, but who knows if they end up that way, as I don't think I'm too good at comedy stuff. But of course there's probably going to be times where I put out more videos than, you know, this theoretical once a fortnight schedule, but it really depends on the inspiration, right? No one should feel obligated to create stuff when there is no inspiration there. And that's not to say I don't have any, but again, it's just reaching the point where I don't want to be forced to, like, come up with stuff just for a schedule. It's hard to make a video of this nature and not make it come across as self-important, self-indulgent, pretty much all the selves. But it's not meant to be a celebration of me, but rather the channel. There's a distinction there. I am me, but the channel is a collection of 100,000 people. But yeah, it's tiny compared to big YouTubers, but still, it's a lot of people. It's a collective, a group who share a passion, or multiple passions, and can discuss them in an unlimited fashion. A sort of evolution of the forums and communities I frequented in the early 2000s. And maybe it's a little bizarre sounding, but at the end of the day, I've had a great time making videos and interacting with people. And I'm looking forward to much more. The next 10 years, where the Silver Mont will probably have silver hair by the end of it, if he has any hair at all. But whether you've been watching for 1 year, 10 years, or anything in between, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you real soon. We got a lot of exciting releases and things coming this year. Who knows, perhaps I can soon make content for Dragon's Dogma 2 and go full circle, which would be appropriate given the nature of Dragon's Dogma and its cycles, which, come to think of it, has some similarities to the Wheel of Time, doesn't it? For there are no beginnings and endings to the Wheel of Time. But this is an ending, so I will see you in the next video. Until then, may the dragon ride again on the winds of time.